Hi and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be comparing two of DJI's beginner friendly drones, which is going to be the DJI Lito X1 and the DJI Neo 2. Now both of these drones do look familiar on specs at first glance, but they are really designed for completely different people. So one of them is basically a fly-in action camera that anyone can fly in minutes, and the other one is more like a proper cinematic mini drone made for creators who actually care about image quality. So in the video I am going to be covering the camera quality and the sensors on both drones, the resolution and the frame rates, slow motion capabilities, color profiles, flight performance, wind resistance, battery life and the tracking features. So I'm also going to be covering active track limitations, quick shots and master shots, ease of use, durability and crash resistance, and who each drone is aimed at. And at the end then I'm also going to finish off with 5 bad points for each drone, just so you can get the good with the bad. So if you could do the like, subscribe and the notification bell, that would be greatly appreciated. So before we get into it, we need to understand the philosophy behind both these drones. Now the DJI Neo 2 is basically DJI's smartest and easiest to use drone, and it is designed for total beginners, vloggers, travellers, hikers, cyclists or social media creators. And literally you can launch it from the palm of your hand with just the press of one button, and it is going to follow you automatically. Now the DJI Lito X1 is different, and this is going to be aimed more at aspiring filmmakers, YouTubers, content creators, people upgrading from cheaper beginner drones, and users who want a mini pro experience without paying the mini pro prices. So basically it's more serious camera drone first and a beginner drone second, and that's the difference that affects everything to do with the drone. So first up is going to be the camera quality, and this is where the gap is the biggest of all, because the DJI Neo 2 uses a 1/2-inch CMOS sensor. It can shoot photos up to 12 megapixels and it's got an aperture of 2.2. Now when it comes to video, it will record up to 4K at 60 frames a second or slow motion in 100 frames a second. It'll also give you vertical video at 2.7K, and it will give you also stabilized footage with a 2-axis gimbal. Now that sounds great on paper, and honestly for things like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, it does look good, especially if you are outdoors on a fantastic day like today. But the small sensor does mean it is going to struggle with things like low light, sunsets, its dynamic range, shadows or really bright skies, because ultimately it is a selfie drone and DJI have prioritized convenience over cinematic image quality. Now the Lito on the other hand is a totally different beast, because this gives you a 1/1.3-inch CMOS sensor. It's capable of doing 48 megapixels. You've also got 14 stops of dynamic range, HDR recording and 10-bit D-Log-M color profiles. Now because of that bigger sensor, you are going to get a cleaner image, better low light performance, better highlight recovery, more detail and also better color depth. Now the drone is clearly aimed at creators who want footage they can actually color grade later on. When it comes to the frame rate, you've still got 4K at 60 frames a second and slow motion at 100 frames a second. We've also got additional frame rates such as 24 frames a second, and to be honest, the footage does look far better than the price point would suggest. And when it comes to slow motion, as I said, they both do 4K at 100 frames a second. But with the Lito X1, because it has a better bitrate, better dynamic range and better stabilization, the footage on the Lito X1 is going to look more professional when you are slowing it down. And as I mentioned, you've got the color profiles. Now this is going to be massive for creators who do, as I said, want to do any color grading. So on the Neo 2 you've basically got a standard colored profile, and that's going to be great for quick social ready footage, but it is going to give you limited color grading flexibility. Whereas on the Lito X1 you do have 10-bit D-Log-M, HDR, and that's going to give you far better color grading potential. So if you are looking to seriously edit your videos, then the Lito X1 is going to win by miles. Now next to things like camera quality, how the drone actually flies is a massive aspect of the drone too, because both drones are very different when they're in the air. Now they both have a wind resistance of level 5, but the Neo 2 is more lightweight and compact, and that's great for portability, but it's not really amazing in strong winds. Now the original Neo was rated to a level 4 wind resistance, and that was roughly 8 meters a second. The Neo 2 does improve on this at 10.7 meters a second, which is the same as the Lito X1, but it is still primarily a small selfie drone. Now, the Lito X1 is far more stable in winds, especially in things like on the coast, and it does handle the wind surprisingly well considering that it is sub 250 grams. And that's mainly because it has a more traditional drone shape, stronger motors, better stabilization, and more advanced positioning sensoring. So for me personally, this means that I feel much more confident flying the Lito X1 when I'm on the beach, near cliffs, mountains, or in open fields where there is the risk of greater winds, because it does give me much more confidence when I'm flying the drone. So that will lead us on to the battery life, and to be honest with you, it doesn't really come close. So on the DJI Neo 2, you're going to get around about 18 to 19 minutes officially, but in reality, you're going to get maybe 10 to 12 minutes. On the Lito X1, you're going to get 36 minutes officially, but again, in reality, you're going to get 24, 25 minutes, but you can extend that if you use the bigger batteries. So you will get almost double on the Lito X1, and in real world flying, that difference will matter greatly. With the Neo 2, you constantly feel like, okay, I'm going to need to land soon, whereas with the Lito X1, you can actually relax and start shooting properly. And of course, with battery life then, you've got range. Now, the Lito X1 does win with range, but it doesn't really matter because obviously you've got to fly within visual line of sight. So the fact that it can go tens of kilometers out doesn't really make much of a difference. Also, what I found in testing is that when you come to using the Neo 2, once you get out to about a mile out, then you're going to be losing the battery life anyway, so it needs to come back. But the stronger transmission does mean that you are going to get better signal stability, fewer dropouts, and more reliable flying in difficult areas. And again, as I said, the Lito does feel much more serious when it comes to flying. Now, although the Lito X1 has basically won out on everything so far, when it comes to tracking and active track, the Neo 2 does tend to fight back quite hard, because basically the Neo 2's tracking is very, very good, and DJI have built the drone around the autonomous flying modes. So it does actually support follow mode, direction track, spotlight, active track 360, and the AI subject recognition will work with people and cars, and the tracking speed can hit around about 12 meters per second. So if you're running, cycling, skating or hiking, it is going to work really, really well. Now, the Neo 2 also adds intelligent obstacle sensing compared to the original Neo, but again, there are limitations to this. So it is mainly going to track people, bikes and moving subjects. It's not going to be really advanced for things like boats, wildlife or anything which has got any sort of unpredictable movement. So if the environment gets complicated, tracking can still sometimes fail. Now, on the Lito X1, tracking also includes things like active track, more intelligent subject tracking, and on both drones you're going to have master shots and quick shots, and you've still got the omnidirectional obstacle sensing. But unlike the Neo 2, tracking is not really the main focus for the drone itself. So the Neo is more about letting the drone do almost everything, but ironically, the cheaper drone is probably more fun when it comes to autonomous follow shots. With the Lito X1, it's more about capturing that cinematic footage while helping the pilot out. And this is the point where I stop and say, if you find it useful, if you could do the like, subscribe, notification bell and the hype, that would be greatly appreciated. There's also an option there for buy me a coffee, but I'd much prefer a Diet Coke. So if you'd like to do that, that would be greatly appreciated too. And any funds will go back into the channel, and maybe I can go somewhere cooler because we've had one good day of sunshine in the UK and I can't really handle the heat. Now, as I just touched on, both drones will include master shots and quick shots. So they include things like the droney, the rocket, circle, helix, follow and spotlight. And these are basically automatic cinematic movements for the drone, and again, they are perfect for beginners. But saying that, I tend to use a lot of these movements again in my footage because it means that I know the drone's going to do a reliable shot and I don't have to worry about doing anything. But what I have found is that quick shots on the Neo 2 are, as I said, possibly more fun because they are a lot easier to do. You can do everything literally on the drone itself. You haven't got to worry about getting the controller out or any sort of setup. You literally switch the drone on, press the button, choose the mode, and the drone's going to do everything automatically. And this is one of the main reasons why people do really like the Neo 2. And when it comes to the Lito X1, you have, as I said, got the same features, but you will get better results purely because you've got more options when it comes to things like color grading and frame rates. Now, in addition to the quick shots, you've also got the master shots option, and basically what the drone does, it takes a number of quick shots and then combines them into a short cinematic sequence altogether. Moving on from that, we're going to have the ease of use, and in this category the DJI Neo 2 wins hands down, because to be honest, it's not even close. The DJI Neo 2 is probably the easiest drone to use that DJI have ever made. Obviously, you can launch it from your hand. You've got hand gestures to fly the drone. You can use your phone, and you can also use voice commands. So basically, you can fly this without a controller, and it's almost impossible to feel intimidated by the drone. Whereas the Lito X1 is still a very beginner-friendly drone, but it does behave more like a proper camera drone. And that means you've got more settings, more flight options, more camera control, and obviously more things to learn. So it boils down to the fact that the Neo 2 will give you more sort of effortless fun, if you like, whereas the Lito X1 is more of a creator tool. Now, one thing that is guaranteed when you are out flying either the Neo 2 or the Lito X1 is that at some point you are going to screw up and you are going to crash the drone. And this again is where the Neo 2 does come into its own. And that's basically because it's built like a tank. So you have got the prop guards on it, and it's also a lightweight design. And as a result, it means you're going to have softer impacts, and literally the drone is going to bounce off anything it hits. And because it is so light, none of these crashes are going to be that catastrophic. Whereas the Lito X1 is still a camera drone, and this means that the gimbal's exposed, it's got the folding arms, and the camera system is much more fragile. So if you do crash the Lito X1 hard, it's probably going to cost you to repair it. So this means that the Neo 2 is definitely going to be more durable. And in fact, when I am out myself mountain biking or using the drone in any sort of dangerous situation, I will tend to use the Neo 2 rather than any other drone that I've got, because I know that when the does hit the fan, it's going to be come out okay. So basically, those are the main points. Which drone's right for you is going to be subjective, really. But if you are someone who is a total beginner, you want effortless flying, you mostly create social media content or vlogging, travel, hiking or biking, and you want sort of more autonomous follow shots and something that's safe and fun to fly, then the basic and easiest drone of all is going to be the DJI Neo 2. But on the other hand, if you care more about image quality, color grading your footage, you want more cinematic shots, and you want to shoot more for things like YouTube, you want a longer battery life, better wind performance, and a proper drone flying experience, then the DJI Lito X1 will probably be your best choice, because it does feel more like a budget Mini Pro, which really it is. Now, as I said at the beginning of the video, I am going to give you 5 disappointments for both drones. So looking at the DJI Neo 2 first, in a nutshell, the battery life is going to be mediocre, and it does disappear fast. You do have weak low-level performance when it comes to the small sensor, and that's going to give you noisy footage indoors and at night. You've also got limited cinematic flexibility because there's no serious color grading options. The wind performance isn't amazing, and it is going to struggle in stronger conditions, and the tracking isn't perfect, especially around obstacles or unpredictable movement. And when it comes to the Lito X1, things aren't all rose-tinted either. It is more expensive, especially when you add in the accessories such as batteries and a controller. It's also less beginner-friendly, and more settings can overwhelm you if you are new to flying. There's also less crash resistance, so the camera and the gimbal are more vulnerable. It's also bigger and less pocketable and portable, because obviously you do need a controller to fly the drone. So although it is still compact, it's nowhere near the convenience level of the Neo 2. And the tracking, really, it is good, but it's not as fun as using the Neo 2. Now, when it boils down to it, the Lito X1 is clearly the better drone for creators. I do personally think that the Lito X1 is possibly one of the biggest hits that DJI are going to have for a long time to come. But saying that, the DJI Neo 2 also has some great qualities, which in some circumstances do outweigh the Lito. But it's horses for courses, isn't it? Depending on what you want to do with the drone will really depend on which drone. If you are looking at just starting out, maybe the DJI Neo 2 is going to be ideal because of its simplicity. If you want something a little bit more serious, then you're going to be looking at the Lito X1. But let me know in the comments below which one you would actually choose and why. Okay, so that's the end of the video. As I said earlier, if you found it useful, if you could do the like, subscribe, notification bell, hype, and all the palaver that goes with that. There's the option there for buy me a cold drink, and that would be greatly appreciated too. And now I'm going to go home because it's 8:15 in the morning and I've already lost about 3 pounds of body weight through sweat because literally I can't handle this heat. So I'll catch you again in the next few days, and thanks for watching.